As the months came and went, Wendy's baby bumps started to get bigger each month. Everyone was excited for Wendy to have her and Dipper's child, but they were nervous about the birth coming up as well. It was during the time where Wendy's due date was approaching, and it was approaching quickly. It had been around May 12th on a Sunday. Dipper was hunting for crabs to cook on shore when he heard a noise. The noise was a sound of drumming in the distance. Unsure of what the drumming noise was, it sounded like it was coming from the forbidden part of the jungle. Dipper walked towards the hut with the crabs he had caught, seeing that only Mabel and Pacifica were inside, but he couldn't find Wendy anywhere. He looked for the hut and called Wendy's name out to her. However, Mabel and Pacifica had no idea where Wendy went. Dipper assumed that Wendy was out on a walk. It was getting close to sundown. Thinking that Wendy must have gotten lost, he headed off with a machete to find Wendy. He left Mabel and Pacifica in charge of the hut, even telling them to stay put as he is off to find his wife. As Dipper was walking through the jungle, he was hearing some drumming sound getting louder. Dipper turned to his right in the direction where the drumming sound was, so he headed off in that direction. As the sun was setting, making the sky darker, Dipper walked towards the forbidden part of the island. Dipper then stared at the burning bright light in the distance. He hid behind some trees, making sure he wasn't seen by anyone. However, Dipper watched what was happening. There were a native tribe members dancing. They were dancing by the fire, and they were also singing some kind of language that Dipper couldn't understand what they were saying. But since he didn't speak in that language the native tribe was speaking in, he listened. As a man was being brought into a rock on the altar, he was like being beheaded by the tribe members. Dipper was nearly pissing himself at this point. Realizing that Wendy wasn't there, it made him feel more worried than ever. Dipper took off running back towards the hut on shore. He even swore never to go to the native tribe's place again. By the time he returned to the hut, he was nearly out of breath. "Dipper, what happened?" Mabel asked. "Did something happen?" "Yeah, I saw a native tribe in the forbidden part of the forest. They beheaded one of their tribe members to their god, but I didn't find Wendy there," Dipper replied. "She's gotta be here somewhere. I'll bring us this first aid kit, just in case if she's hurt," Pacifica said, grabbing the first aid kit. "I'm sure she's on this island. If a ship did come here, Wendy would have gotten us," Mabel said, making her point. Suddenly they all heard the sound of Wendy screaming. The scream sounded as if Wendy was in pain, making Dipper's heart wrench and worry. "That's Wendy! She must have gotten hurt," Dipper said, hearing Wendy's cries of pain. "More like labor. I think your wife is having your baby," Pacifica stated. Dipper knew what was happening and he needed to be there for Wendy. "Mabel, stay in this hut and don't leave. We'll be back as soon as we are," Dipper instructed. Mabel nodded as Dipper and Pacifica ran into the jungle. While Dipper and Pacifica were running through the jungle, they followed Wendy's screams and cries of pain. She had to be in the jungle somewhere, so Dipper began to call out for Wendy. "Wendy, where are you?" Dipper shouted, trying to make himself hear if Wendy heard him. "Mason!" Wendy cried out in pain, knowing where she was. Dipper and Pacifica ran further into the jungle, finding Wendy sitting up in a position by a nest of leaves by a tree. "Wendy, what's wrong? Did they hurt you?" Dipper asked, asking Wendy if the native tribe hurt her. "Who are they?" Wendy asked, confused. "They're a native tribe that Dipper saw. They were on the forbidden part of the island. Dipper saw one man being beheaded, and now that you're in labor, we're just glad you're okay. We thought that something happened," Pacifica answered. "I started going into labor a few hours ago. However, it was in its early stages during the mid-afternoon, so I went for a walk. That's when the pain doubled, and I couldn't get back to the hut," Wendy panted while doing her breathing. "I know how to do this. My aunt's a nurse, so I know how to deliver a baby," Pacifica said, as Wendy gripped a good grip on Dipper's hand. "Are you sure, Pacifica?" Dipper asked. "Yes, Dipper. You and Wendy need to trust me on this," Pacifica stated, to which Dipper and Wendy both nodded. Wendy felt a painful contraction coming, so she cried out in pain as Dipper comforted her. It had been a long night of labor, but it was sunrise when Wendy did the one last push. And as she did this, the baby started to cry. Pacifica wrapped the baby in some rags and then handed it to Wendy. "She's fine, and she's breathing well," Pacifica said, stating that Wendy's baby was a girl. "A girl? I had a girl?" Wendy asked, thinking that she was dreaming. "Oh my God, Dipper, she's finally here!" Wendy held her baby as the sun rose over the sky, shining down on the couple with Pacifica. "She's beautiful, Wendy," Dipper smiled, looking at his new daughter. "She looks a lot like you." "Yeah, and she does have that cute little nose of yours," Wendy replied, smiling a face. The new image of herself and Dipper combined. "She's even got your eyes, Wendy. She just opened them," Dipper pointed out. Pacifica even got to look at the baby, and indeed she was beautiful. As Dipper, along with Wendy and Pacifica, headed back to their hut with the shore with the baby, Mabel was outside of the hut. She could see Dipper and Wendy with Pacifica, and even saw the fact that her family was okay. "You're back! I was worried about you all," Mabel said. "I thought something bad happened, especially when I was hearing Wendy screaming." "She had her baby, Mabel. She was in labor in the jungle," Dipper explained. "That explains why she was screaming? Did everything go okay?" Mabel asked. "Mom and baby are doing fine, I reassure you," Pacifica replied, answering Mabel's question. "May I see my new niece or nephew?" Mabel asked. "Your niece is sleeping, Mabel, but she does have a mixture of me and Dipper," Wendy said, showing Mabel and her baby. She had Dipper's nose, Wendy's red hair, but when she opened her eyes, she had her mother's eyes. She also has my eyes. "She's so adorable! What's her name going to be?" Mabel questioned. "That's a very good question, Mabel. I'm not sure what her name should be," Dipper said, scratching the back of his head. "Why not name her Lily? I've always liked that name," Wendy suggested. "I love that name, Wendy, and I think she does so too," Dipper replied, smiling at his daughter in Wendy's arms. Since the morning was quiet, Wendy had been looking after her daughter. Whenever Lily was crying because she was hungry, Wendy would feed her. Whenever Lily needed to use the bathroom, Wendy made sure to use rags as diapers and changed them whenever needed. Whenever Wendy wasn't doing any either of those, she would be resting from childbirth, as it could take a lot out of a woman in energy. Dipper was on watch for danger. His paranoia was getting the best of him at this time. Ever since he watched a native tribe killing one of their own kind, Dipper has been paranoid of them kidnapping his family and hurting them, or even killing them. It happened 4 days since Lily was born, and Dipper had to keep his guard up on keeping his family safe. While on watch one day, Mabel walked towards Dipper at the watchtower, wondering why Dipper was on watch 24/7. "Dipper, why are you always on watch all the time?" Mabel asked him. "It's because I'm paranoid about it, Mabel," Dipper replied. "Why are you paranoid? Is it because of the native tribe you encountered that night that Wendy was in labor?" Mabel questioned him. "Yes, and I'm just paranoid that one day one of these native tribe members will kill and find us. If they take Wendy, you, Lily, Pacifica, and hurt or kill any of you, I'd be broken forever," Dipper stated sadly. "You're strong, Dipper. We will not go down without a fight. Family is always important, and as soon as we're back in Gravity Falls, we won't have to worry anymore," Mabel explained. You're right on that, Mabel," Dipper said, as Pacifica walked up to the watchtower. "Wendy says that she needs you with the baby, Dipper. Can you, maybe take over if it's possible?" Pacifica offered. "And besides, you need to catch a break from being on the lookout." "You're right, girls. I shouldn't let my paranoia get the better of me. And I know our friends will find us. I know they won't give up on us," Dipper said, letting Pacifica take over while he goes to the hut to help Wendy. Back at the hut, Dipper had helped Wendy with changing rags on Lily. Since Lily was fed, she needed the rags to be changed, so Dipper helped Wendy change her rags. Once the clean ones were put on, Wendy and Dipper placed her in a nest by their bed so she could sleep. "Were those native tribes evil?" Wendy asked him. "I have no idea, but I saw one of them killing one of their kind by beheading them. It was the night you went into labor. I don't understand why," Dipper trailed off, figuring out what else to say. Why do people do bad things to each other? Mason, I don't understand why either. That's why I've questioned myself for pretty much a long time. Native tribes on what they do is confusing. But promise this to you. When we get off this island, we'll be safe from the dangers of the island, Wendy reassured Dipper. You're right on that, Wendy. I'm glad to have you and my family on this island, Dipper said, kissing his wife after she said that. The next day, everyone rowed the lifeboat to Grunkle Stan's grave on the other side to talk to him. They knew that help would soon come any day now, and they wanted to be able to see his grave at least one last time, even if it meant they would never return to his grave. At least their memories will never be forgotten by anyone in Gravity Falls.